Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much to everybody who watched my last video. I was really excited to see some of your comments, and I hope that you guys will continue to enjoy my videos. So today I'm going to talk about my favorite sewing tools. I have a lot of things set out on my table here that I will show you in a minute. But first I want to say that what I think I'm going to do going forward with my channel is alternate between make-alongs and other types of videos. So, we'll do a sewing room tour and I'll talk a little bit about what I've been making and fabrics and things like that. But this video is going to be on my favorite sewing tools. So first we'll talk about some of my favorite cutting tools. Now I cut everything out with rotary cutters. I really love these Olfa rotary cutters. I have them in two different sizes. I've got the 45 millimeter and the 28 millimeter. The 28 millimeter is very nice for cutting out kind of little things like lingerie, and the big cutter is good for just about everything. I even cut out my pattern tissue with a rotary cutter. With a rotary cutter, you need to use something to weigh your pattern down so that it doesn't shift while you're cutting. And my favorite thing to use are these weight mates. So this is kind of silly. This is a thing that my mom had. I think she probably bought them in the 70s or the 80s. And basically it's just a heavy washer covered with a plastic cover. And I had a set of these from her. I had a set, I think the set comes with like two of each size of these. And I found them on eBay recently and bought two more sets. So I have a ton of these now. I really like that they're curved. So if you're cutting around a curve, something, you can kind of get really close to it. And I like that they come in a variety of sizes. And I also just have a big nostalgia factor for these. You can use just about anything as a pattern weight. I know a lot of people use all sorts of different like bean bags and other weights, and there are some really cute June Taylor weights that people love that are really hard to find, but these are my favorite. Next up we have marking tools. So I've got a couple things to show you here. One of my favorite marking tools is this Clover chalk liner. So this has a wheel in it. So like it's got like a little pizza wheel in the tip, and it will take the chalk and make a really nice line. You can probably see a little bit on my finger there. These are really great, especially if you need to like get something and get it in kind of a straight line. And you can buy little refills for these too. So when this is empty, I've refilled this a couple times. When it's empty, you can do that. I've got this in two colors. I've got a pink one too. I don't use the pink one as much. I think it stains a little bit more. It's harder to get off, but I love the yellow one. A newer favorite for me are water erasable markers. This one's by Clover, and I have another one here that's Leonis. I'll link this below. The Leonis one is much cheaper. I had been using this one for a long time, and it's getting kind of dead, and I've been having trouble finding another one at Joann's, which is where I bought this one. I found it in the quilting section, but my Joann's has not had these since I bought this one that I can tell. So when I was taking bra class at Stitch Sew Shop recently, Amy Chapman from Cloth Habit had a pack of these that are basically the same thing. So what this is it's a blue marker and it's water erasable. So what that means is that you can draw all over your garment, and then you can take a little piece of fabric that's dampened with water and just rub it against your fabric, and the mark will wipe right off. I haven't yet come up into anything where the mark hasn't just come straight off. Now, the problem with this is that it's light blue, so it doesn't really work on dark fabric, which is kind of how you, or at least how I, choose which one of these I'm going to use. Two other things that I learned about in my bra class and I have started using that I love. These really have changed my game. I've got this hole punch right here. So what this does is you'll punch down and it screws down. Sorry, it's really hard to do this not on a table. And it cuts a perfect little tiny hole. Now, what this is great for is when you are marking darts in a pattern. So you can make a hole at the top of the dart, and then it's really easy to take your water-soluble pen and drop it right in there. So I'd use this on pattern tissue and pattern paper. It works really well. Similarly, I've got a notcher here. So this is kind of like your old single hole punch that you probably used in school, except this cuts a little notch. So what I like to do with this is on pattern tissue, you can't use this on fabric. On pattern tissue, I will take that right where you see notches. So here's one right now that I'm working on. And you can take it and just bloop, punch a little notch right there, and so you know exactly where you're gonna wanna cut. Similarly, I've got two other kind of similar tools. One is a buttonhole puncher. Guys, if you don't have one of these, buy one. It will change your game. Your buttonholes come out so perfect and clean when you use a buttonhole punch. This one is my mom's again, I think probably from the 80s. And my husband sharpens mine pretty regularly because it is a little old and it's getting a little grody. And this is just a piece of scrap wood that my husband had in his shop. But what you do is you make your buttonhole and then you can punch down like that. This is a chisel basically. So you can punch down like that and get your buttonhole cut open, and that way you don't risk, I've seen some people use a seam ripper, which is a little bit terrifying for me. You don't risk pulling through the end of your button and ruining whatever you're making right at the end stages when you're cutting open your buttonholes. So I really like this. I never use anything else to cut open my buttonholes. So another thing that I love to have on hand is an awl. So an awl is, and I'll show you mine in a minute, I'm going to describe it to you before I show it to you. An awl is a pointed, it looks kind of like a little ice pick kind of thing. It's a long pointy piece of metal that you can use to make holes in something. So if you've made, if you're trying to make a hole for a snap or you're trying to make a hole for a grommet, you can use an awl to make the hole. Now, I had a real awl at one point, and I don't know what happened to it. I think I lost it when we moved. And so the night before the Renaissance Festival a couple years ago, the only thing I needed to do was get open my eyelets, put in my grommets to lace up the corset top that I had made. And so my husband made me this. We sometimes refer to this as my prison weapon. This is a old screwdriver that he took and ground into a point. So a typical awl gets a little bit bigger as you go, and as you can see, mine does to an extent too. But I have to say, this is the sharpest and best awl I have ever used. If you need to, open up a hole to put in snaps in a denim jacket where you've got 3 layers of denim that you're going through, this will do the job. A regular awl, I'm sure, is great too. This is my awl. I love it. If you've also got a metal grinder or someone that you know that can make you something like this out of an old screwdriver, I highly recommend it. One last kind of cutting punching tool that I want to mention is these little scissors. I love them so much. I bought these at the Renaissance Festival years ago, and I have like 5 pairs of these. I keep one in my knitting bag. I keep one in front of each machine when I'm working, so that I always have something to snip my threads. Now, what I love about this versus regular thread snips is that I can fit my fingers in here. So I have really big hands, and those like little tiny scissors that are for cutting threads and stuff, I just hate them. I get my fingers stuck in them, and so these gigantic things are better. I have seen these in my local knitting store, Fiber Space. They have scissors like these. They're more expensive than the ones I got at the Renaissance Festival. These were $8, and I bought 5 pairs. So maybe see if your Renaissance Festival has them. I bought them at the blacksmith booth in my Renaissance Festival. They are made in China. They just had them because they look kind of blacksmithy, but I love them. These are the best. Another thing that I use all the time is my tweezers. I have a few pairs of these. I think these came with my serger, and then I have another pair that came with my cover stitch machine. I use these for everything. I use them to find the little letters in my box for my sign. I use this to thread my machines. I have longer nails, so I sometimes have trouble picking up little things. And these are just like my I just use these all the time. I love them. I highly recommend. I didn't use them for a really long time. I had them and kind of was like, psh, I don't need these. Now I just can't live without them. Okay, now a few sticky things. I've grouped the sticky things together. First off, fray check. So we already talked about my buttonhole cutter, but every time I make a buttonhole, I cover the buttonhole in fray check, let that dry, and then cut it open. And that just makes the most perfect professional buttonholes that don't fray. If it's a very frayy fabric, sometimes I'll also fray check it afterward a little bit. It's made by Dritz, stops fraying on fabric. Two other things that I really like: fabric glue stick. So this is really fantastic, and what I use this for is when I'm making a button-down shirt and I need to make the collar or the plackets. I will glue that, stick it down, and then it holds it much better than using pins. So it'll hold something that's very exact and needs to be very precise. This works best on like shirting fabrics. That's what I usually use it for. Very good. And then for your more heavy duty fabrics, this is a Amazon knockoff special of Wonder Tape. So if you've never used Wonder Tape, what it is it's tape that's sticky on one side, and on the other side it's got this paper, so you can peel off this paper and stick it on both sides. So you could stick a placket down or a waistband. I use this a lot for waistbands. And then it goes away in the wash. The first time you wash your garment, this will disappear. So mine came in a 2-pack. Wonder Tape is pretty expensive, so I've been buying Ho-Top 1/4 inch quilting sew tape, 22 yard, 2 rolls, made in China. This stuff is great. I mean, it's basically the same thing. It works the same way. I'll link it in the description box below. I'll try and link as much of this stuff as I can in the description box below, so if you want to check any of it out, you can. So that was all the sticky stuff. Wonder clips. I love these so much. What these are is little clips, and they are great for when you're working with something bulky and you can't get your pins through it. I love these. When you're making bags, anything like that, these are fantastic. Another thing that is wonderful and kind of silly is my miniature anvil. So I have this miniature anvil, and what this is great for is when you are hammering in rivets or snaps or anything like that that needs to be done on a hard surface, and it tells you to use like a cast iron pan. My cast iron pans are in use all the time. That's the only thing I cook in, and so they're greasy. I mean, I do the thing that you're supposed to do. I wash them and then I oil them, and so I don't really want to be using an oily pan with my newly made items. So I bought this little anvil, and it's just fantastic. I love this thing. Okay, now one last thing. I was wavering on whether to include this because I don't think that you can get these anymore, but maybe you could find one on eBay or at a yard sale or something like that. My fast turn set. I love this thing. Once again, this is another thing that my mom, I think, bought in the 70s or 80s, and this thing is magical. So let me show you what it looks like. This is what it looks like inside here. And what the deal is that if you're making like a spaghetti strap or something like that, you take this, you feed the tube of fabric on it, and then you insert this guy in the bottom till you get to the top. Hopefully you can see here, this has like a little loopy thing up here, and so you can grab the fabric and pull it down through the center, and it flips it right back out. This is so great, and it comes in sizes all the way up from enormous down to teeny tiny. I love this thing. And when I was a kid, I loved to play with it. I liked to make snakes, fabric snakes, I call it. I saw it in the basement one day while I was helping my mom with something. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's the snake maker. And I had just kind of started sewing again. And she was like, you can take that. I don't remember the last time I turned a loop. So I was really excited that she was willing to give it to me. If you see one somewhere, you should definitely pick it up. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope that there was something that I talked about in this video that you haven't tried yet that you'll try on out, or next time you see a sewing garage sale, you'll look for a fast turn set or some vintage pattern weights. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Give me a like or a comment. And actually, I'd love it if you would tell me down below what your favorite sewing tools are. I'm always interested in trying out new stuff, so if I haven't given it a try, maybe I'll try it in another video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great day.